Alrighty, first of all, thank you all for coming out and listening to me talk about breach and attack simulation today. I'll be honest, I wasn't quite prepared for this type of room and being recorded, but here we are. I don't normally public speak. I'll give a quick introduction of who I am or what I do. Quick, who am I? So my name is Patrick Williams, and I'm a cybersecurity consultant and penetration tester at Datacom. I've worked as a cybersecurity analyst, and I've also worked in research and development, testing next generation firewalls, and before that I did system admin work for an enterprise. So I had to check back at my LinkedIn the other day, and I've seen I've been in the tech industry for about a decade now, which is a bit scary because it means I'm getting old. So some of you guys probably wondering what BAS is even about, or breach and attack simulation. So at its core, it is a way to simulate cybersecurity attacks. It's designed to mimic the tactics, techniques, and procedures used by real-world attackers. It's also a technical validation and assessment of security controls. And it's a way for organizations to proactively assess and enhance their organization's security posture. And it does this through a realistic assessment of an organization's security controls and how they would perform against real-world cyber attacks. One of the core concepts of breach and attack simulation is this idea of threat-informed defense. And threat-informed defense consists of these three things to achieve this concept. Okay, so we have this idea of cyber threat intelligence, which could be in the form of, say, like a DFIR report or something like that. And then with all that knowledge of a cyber attack, we perform testing against our security controls. And BAS is designed to help in that type of testing. From the output of that testing, we then review how our defensive measures performed, and we can improve and identify real weaknesses in our defense measures before we get breached. BAS contains two sort of core approaches. So it has this idea of control-centric testing and threat-centric testing. You can think of controls as, say you've configured a web application firewall and you want to make sure that it's working. You want to make sure that your rule set's functioning correctly and that it's actually protecting your web application. So you perform a control-centric test to ensure that the rule set you've got is all working, it's blocking all the attacks. And the advantage of using something like BAS to do that is you can run that continuously and automated, so you don't have to go back and do it once off and then be worried that your application is not protected. You have that peace of mind that it's continuously occurring. The other side of it is the threat-centric testing, and this is the stuff that I get pretty excited about. This is more of the nuclear bomb approach, where you're able to simulate real APTs and exploits in your organization, and you're able to see how your defense measures play out against a real APT or a real ransomware attack or something like that. To give you the perspective of where BAS testing sort of fits in with all the other different types of security testing that's out there, BAS really fits into this security validation and control validation. So if you've got any existing tools that are doing that type of testing, then BAS is going to really help you improve that side of things. But when we compare it to things like exposure management and vulnerability assessments, it can help you there a little bit, but it's not designed to give you like a holistic view of all your organization's vulnerabilities like you'd get from, say, Nessus or Rapid7 or something like that. And lastly, this comes up a bit as people ask, well, does BAS replace penetration testing and red teaming? And the answer is absolutely not. In fact, it helps penetration testers and red teamers. So I can speak from experience. When you're performing penetration testing, the last thing you want is to go in there and find all the low-hanging fruit and spend your entire time writing out a report and never really getting into the weeds and finding those harder to find vulnerabilities that require real technical expertise to actually locate. So it helps. It helps you get rid of all that noise and then lets penetration testers and red teamers really do what they do best, which is, being creative and finding that hard to find stuff. And the other thing is, whereas a lot of organizations, when they just get a pen test, they'll get it like annually, whereas BAS is letting you perform that, well, it's not the exact same, but it's allowing you to do that sort of testing continuously all the time. So you can, a new vulnerability comes out, new threat actor comes out, you're able to test that immediately in your environment and see how your controls stack up. And that, it might sound pretty terrifying just to drop all of this stuff immediately into your organization and start adjusting your controls. So there's what we call a journey for an organization to be able to do this. And like everything, you start off with a crawl and a walk and then a run. And so with BAS, you can perform it either as just like a one-off little executable, just on a single workstation kind of thing. And that would be at your crawling stage, and you might run that as a one-off test, and you might, you may or may not, adjust your security controls. But you're not like doing it all the time and that sort of stuff. Once you get into the walking and running, you are able to run these tests all the time, and as soon as something new comes out, you're able to run your test and actually, say if something got in through the network, you're able to go in, okay, we need a new firewall, we need a new firewall rule to be able to block this attack, and you're very interactively adjusting your defense measures against real-world attacks. So not much of a slides person, so that's all I've got for slides. But I just want to show you guys quickly around a BAS platform to show you guys what it's all about. So I'm going to jump into a tool that we're using for BAS, which is called AttackIQ. So I'm just going to show you guys around the web interface and show you guys sort of what kind of test, what this actually looks like in practice. So with AttackIQ, there are a bunch of pre-built assessments into it, and these will be anything from like some ransomware attack to a single, say, CVE or exploit. So there's a wide range of things here, and you can see there's currently 4,300 assessments sitting in within AttackIQ. So there's a lot of different testing that can be done here. You can also see there is the tactics there. So AttackIQ is built on the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So all the tests that you're performing will be mapped to things that are in the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I please request the people who are standing to either grab a chair or leave the room? There will be another talk tomorrow for the same time. So if you want to attend tomorrow, Uni has advised us that this is a health and safety risk. We're not allowed to let anyone sit there. There's a free chair.
No worries. Cool. All right, where was I? So let's see. Yep. So I was just going to show you sorry, am I free to, I think I'm free to carry on. So the topic of this talk was going to focus around web application firewalls and the types of tests that are available there. So pretty easy to do in AttackIQ. You can just go through, search for WAF, and that'll show you like all the different types of assessments that you could run against the WAF. So I'm not going to run a scenario here at the conference, so I'll show you some previous test results from one of our runs. Yeah, so this one here is, we have an Azure WAF setup, and the Azure WAF comes with a default OWASP rule set, and AttackIQ has a test to ensure that all of those rules in that rule set are actually working and functioning. And once you've run your scan, you'll get a full report, and it's going to show you the result for each one of those rule sets. You can dig into the details and find out exactly what the test was doing. But the main thing is just to ensure that your WAF is actually up and running and that it is sitting in front of your application and that the rule set that you've configured is working. So that's what I'm showing you right now is really around this control-centric piece. So we've got a security control in the form of a web application firewall, and we're validating that it is actually functioning and that it's blocking attacks and all that stuff. It doesn't just focus on web application firewalls though. This could be think of other security controls like Microsoft Defender, like endpoint security, EDR. There's like control tests for all those products. So say if you have CrowdStrike or something like that and you have a prevention policy and you want to test that everything you've configured within that prevention policy that it's actually working for the customer, for example, or for yourself, you can do that as well. You'll have a pre-built assessment there to validate that that policy is working. So that piece of it's really, really powerful. I'm going to show you the other side of it now. So that was control-centric. Now I want to show you threat-centric as well. Yeah, so I picked this threat-centric one. This one here really stood out to me when I first was looking at AttackIQ because when I was a cyber analyst, this was like one of the first incidents that I responded to. And I was really excited to see it actually in AttackIQ and as an assessment that we could run. This was around the Telerik remote code execution vulnerability. This was a .NET deserialization vulnerability. And if you had this running on your web application, basically allowed external actors to just execute code on your web server and gain remote code execution. At the time when I was doing analyst work, this was a nightmare to learn this and to find root cause on the fly. I was digging through CrowdStrike logs and trying to figure out exactly how this had happened because it's the first time seeing this type of attack, and yeah, real nightmare. So what you can do with AttackIQ is rather than waiting for that to occur and trying to have your analyst learn this all on the fly in a real world scenario, you can actually run this as a simulated test and then go through your security controls and see, give them the real world experience of actually dealing with this. And that way you can, one, you're able to test how effective your controls are against a real attack. And you can also train your analysts to get better and faster at responding to these types of things as well. So they're used to using their tools and stuff like that. Now, so this attack graph here, the way this is broken out is, it's all broken out into the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So you can see at the top, we've got initial access. So you can think of, in this case, it was a file getting put onto the web server. So initial access will be the file getting dropped onto the file system, and then that being executed. And AttackIQ will show, like, at each stage of this attack chain, whether your security control prevented the attack or whether it didn't prevent it. And it's very well broken down. So I'll show you quickly. Don't know how clear that is for the people in the back, but basically you can see that what AttackIQ did here was just did an HTTP request to download a malicious DLL and put it on the file system. And then, this is the really cool part of it, is tells you, so in this is quite an advanced setup, so this would be like you running with your breach and attack simulation. So AttackIQ here is actually configured and working with a SIEM. So it's able to go into the logs of the SIEM and find actual detections for each of these steps. And in this case, it's found a log in Splunk from a Palo Alto firewall. So it's seen that when this DLL was trying to come across the network, the firewall has blocked it, and AttackIQ has reached out to the SIEM, pulled out a log and seen that that was blocked. And so that's why it shows up as detected. Conscientious of time, so I won't go through the whole thing, but basically this goes through the full attack chain. So we'll have the execution, so it's going to show when the DLL was executed, and then each stage there. It'll have so in this case, the payload was reverse shell, so it'll show you the connection out to the attacker's infrastructure and see where that was all caught. And also, like, not just that initial access phase, but also the post-compromise activity as well. So once the threat actors that were using this particular vulnerability, we've seen that they were performing like system discovery and all that sort of stuff that you would expect as well. So once you're in that post-compromise phase, it's also showing you all the commands and all that would be running, and did your tools pick that up as well. Yeah, I wanted to just quickly show you guys how, hopefully that makes sense, how it looks when you run one of these threat-centric models as well. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, so that's a pretty basic one, just to give you an overview. You can also do like much more complex assessments as well. So for example, rather than just like mimicking one particular vulnerability, you could mimic an entire APT. Okay. So here is like just an overview of emulating APT29 in your environment. And it's got all of the TTPs seen by this APT in real life, and done an assessment of each one of their tactics in the environment as well. And you get all that information back. Did your tools prevent it? And yeah. Hopefully that looks pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting when I first seen this. So, yeah. You can also click, so because like I said, it all maps to the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So you can actually, like dive right in. Say if you want to really focus in on a particular area of the MITRE ATT&CK framework and see, where are our security controls failing? Is it in initial access? Is it in privilege escalation? And this really allows you as an organization to like really focus in on, where do we have security weaknesses, and also it allows you to, focus in on, if you're looking to purchase new security tools, you're much more informed because you know where your security weaknesses are and you know what sort of products would be able to help you in that area. So it allows customers in that to be more informed when they're purchasing security tools. I think that's pretty much, that was just a pretty quick overview. I don't know if I want to go into much more detail, but I'll give some time for people to ask some questions if they want. If there's anything else they want to see, I'm happy to show you guys around more about AttackIQ if you guys want. Yeah, any questions? Yes, sir.
So with the simulations that you were showing us before,
yep.
Are those kind of baked into AttackIQ and written those simulations?
Good question. So the question is, are these assessments baked into AttackIQ, or is this something that you have to go and make yourself? And so for AttackIQ, it comes pre-built. So everything that I've shown you today is a pre-built assessment. There's like 4,300 of these pre-built assessments, so you don't have to do any of this. You can make your own assessments as well. But yeah, for a lot of people, just having that ability just to get in, get the tool, and run pre-built is pretty awesome. Any other questions? Yep.
Maybe the question specific to the tool you are using, but
Yeah.
where in here
Yep.
WAF comes into picture?
The question is, where does the WAF come into the picture?
Yeah,
And to what?
When you use the tool, do you
Yep.
place a target for
Correct.
the tool to attack, or yeah, maybe some
Yep.
tool specific question, but I'm trying to understand where
Nah, that's fine.
WAF layer comes into picture
Yep.
for the simulation.
Yep. So the question is really around how you sort of point AttackIQ at the WAF, right? So when you are configuring an assessment, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can either point it at just say an IP address or a domain name. So for our, in the one I just showed you, we've just got an assessment that's pointing at the domain name of our WAF, and that's how it's able just to go out and communicate over the network to that WAF and run that test. But you can also do it running, say if you want to run it on workstations and that type of thing as well. There's actually an agent that you can run on your workstation, and that'll, in this case, it'll check into this AttackIQ interface, and then from there you can just, whenever you want, just run assessments on those endpoints as well. Yeah, so that's basically the two ways. It's either pointing it at an IP, or you've got the agent already run on a bunch of workstations that are talking to AttackIQ. Any other questions? Yep.
How confident are you in the tool's ability, for example, to simulate things like, let's say you get a blog on a box, and instead of running off-the-shelf scripts, right, you
Yep.
just start traversing through a file explorer, for example. You come across development directories on the desktop from PHP file, right?
Yep.
As an attacker, that
Yeah, good question. I think this, so the question is it able to simulate more complex attacks and really simulate what a real, say, penetration tester or red teamer would actually do when they were in attacking? The answer to that is a couple answers to that. So one is the attacks aren't just like script kiddie based. So these tests are built using like DFIR reports of real threat actors. So they are quite complex in what they do. But with that being said, they are a static test. That was what I was trying to get across with. This definitely isn't designed to replace penetration testers because, yeah, like you say, like you can't emulate what a pen tester is going to do because that's the whole point about being a pen tester, is being creative and adapting to your environment and what you're seeing. And that's not something that it can do. So you still want to be doing penetration testing and red teaming to complement BAS, but it is able to simulate complex attacks used by real threat actors. Answer your question? Cool. Any other questions? Yeah, go mate. Yep. Maybe Abba wants to answer that one. So, okay, that's all we've got time for. Sorry if my presenting skills wasn't too good.